Up next, the story of a song that resonated strongly with soldiers who were sent to fight in the Vietnam War. Written by a classic songwriting team, the song actually went to the top 10 in 1967. The story of this poignant composition from a key band member of the group next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. I tell you what, if you long for the days of MTV when they played music, American Bandstand, Casey Kasem's Top 40, this is your place. You'll want to subscribe below so you never miss an episode of our daily features. And make sure to check us out on Patreon to become an insider with us. More videos, more content. Now, the Grassroots made their mark on the American charts from 1966 to 1975. The band was a brainchild of Lou Adler and the famous songwriting duo of P.F. Sloan and Steve Barri. The most successful period of the band was actually its third incarnation, which consisted of Creed Bratton on vocals and guitar. Yes, the same Creed from The Office. There was also Rick Koontz on drums and percussion, Warren Entner on vocals, guitar, and keyboards, and Kenny Fukumoto on vocals and bass. Fukumoto was actually drafted in the Army, and after a few replacements, lead singer Rob Grill was in the band for good. This group had many hits, including the unforgettable 60s anthem, Let's Live for Today. It went to number 8 in 1967. And I was fortunate to talk with Warren Entner about this band and this song. Entner has had a long and successful career in the music industry. After leaving the Grassroots in the mid-70s, Entner went behind the scenes of the music business. He became a very successful manager, establishing his own firm, Warren Entner Management. He's actually managed a number of successful hard rock artists, including Quiet Riot, Faith No More, Deftones, Nada Surf, and Rage Against the Machine. He also shares the story of the first time that he saw Rage Against the Machine live. As we go into this interview, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the brand that I always wear. At Zenni.com, you can customize your eyewear with a prescription lens or non-prescription lens if you just want the cool look or color of a particular style of lens. Check it out today at Zenni.com. Here's Warren with the story.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I remember as a kid growing up, my parents loved the Grassroots. My mom tells me a story about...
I knew I liked you right away.
I would hear that sha-da-da.
Yeah.
That was as familiar to me as Good Vibrations or California Dreamin', any of those songs. And it was a song that resonated so much with the young men that had to go fight in Vietnam.
Yeah. The ironic aspect of that, knowing that it struck a nerve with troops over in Vietnam. When we were playing in clubs and we were being signed, we had a bass player that got drafted at that time. And that's when we got Rob Grill in the band. And Kenny went over to Vietnam and he hears this song that does resonate with all of these guys and so forth. I spoke to him years after he got back, and he's going, if you don't think it was eating his heart out.
It was the first war that was televised. There's not another time that music brought so many people together, in my opinion.
There have been songs that have had that kind of power, but not as, I don't think, as a complete sort of movement of culture at that time, where it really polarized people. You know, there was a lot of stuff happening at the time, and the music really expressed itself. There were certainly some fantastic writers and poets out there. I mean, the guy who worked with us early on, P.F. Sloan, with Eve of Destruction. I mean, that song really sort of hit a nerve.
You don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting?
So going back to Let's Live for Today, you're the one that counted it off. That's the voice you hear.
Yeah, I've got that 1, 2, 3, 4 part, you know.
Also, the first album with Rob and Creed from The Office.
Back in the 60s, I was with the Grassroots. Now I do quality assurance for a paper company.
We're still great friends. After he left the band, he was scuffling for a while as a musician and wanting to be an actor and studying acting and so forth. And then all of a sudden, he pops up on The Office with this great character.
I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and a follower.
You and Rob had a really great writing partnership for a while there in those early albums. In fact, like you said, your first couple albums, you guys were able to give a little bit of input. The
majority of those first two records, we had a lot of input in, playing and writing and so forth and so on. The second album, which didn't do too well at all, I remember that was the most fun we all had in the studio, as far as not rushing stuff, taking our time and messing around with things and so forth. And of course, everybody wanted to outdo the Beatles. Hard to do that. But, we were using, our first album was 4-track, the 4-track recording. And I remember then it jumped to 8-track by the second album. And I think the third album, all of a sudden, 16 tracks. And we're going, what are you going to do with all of What are you going to do with all of this? How do you fill it up? Yeah. And now, it's like, just
endless.
Bands are dysfunctional families. There's no doubt about it. They're hard to keep together for long periods of time in the manner in which they all started. After I was involved in the band and I saw, the writing's on the wall. We had a great run and stuff like that. When I got into personal management, I was fortunate enough to be involved with a few bands that had great impact. Rage Against the Machine and Faith No More and so forth, that really were musically, cutting edge and different than what was the norm of.
And such an impact too, because I remember exactly where I was the first time I heard Rage Against the Machine's first album. What is this? You do what they told ya. You do what they told ya. Tell me how that came about with Rage Against the Machine.
Rage was already signed to Epic Records and didn't have a manager, and everybody was chasing them. And I was there with somebody from the label and their attorney that called me to meet with the band. And I said, the criteria that I had now was not necessarily of, do I hear a single or anything? I want to see a band live, and if they can turn on an audience and me, right. You know what I mean? Then I feel there's something really to work with. If radio comes along, great. But, if they can build a following from playing live and word of mouth, which is more important and longer lasting than being on the radio. So
it's more true now than ever.
Definitely. So I went and saw them at a club, and they had been playing around a little bit already, and there were kids there that knew every lyric. There were some just going, whoa. They connected like nobody's business, It was quite amazing. So I think everybody at the label, press, all of the variables that you need to get to the public saw it right away, how unique and how powerful it was and what they had to say and the way that the manner in which their music was presented. It was quite unique.
Was there ever any concern about how overly political, and it's kind of one of those things that people either loved him or hated him, almost like in a way?
There were some real supporters and executives at the label that really, they loved the band. I think people that were involved in their career really felt this is an important band that needs to be heard. So that was a whole other element of, rather than, I think we've got a hit song here. So we had some real passion that went in behind the scenes on the band's behalf, which was rare, really, Do
you feel like that is missing from today, whereas somebody's so focused on the money aspect of it to this is great music and people need to hear it? Do you think it was more so in those times?
I am sure there are some artists that have that passion about the music. I hope so. Otherwise,
We're in trouble.
Otherwise, this is really bad.
Yeah, because it seems
Because
like
there are still people like you and the guys in the room here that are passionate about something. And you know, when something hits you, you're going to talk about it. You're going to, you know, transfer that hopefully to somebody else. And you know, so I still think there's, without that, I mean, music, art, all of that. I mean, it's just, when it's just a commercial vehicle, you know.
as far as Rage goes, is there any kind of story you have or just anything that you remember about Zach or Tom Morello, who has had such a great career played some stuff with Springsteen just lately and all that? Anything you can think of?
Well, they shocked me one night. We were playing at the Élysée Montmartre in Paris. They went out on stage and they made an announcement. It was something about the establishment. I can't remember the exact thing. And they took off their clothes, all four of them, and stood motionless for a good 4 or 5 minutes. And I just went, I'm sorry, I don't think the Grassroots would ever do something like that, but just balls naked, just standing there like that. So that took some guts, you know, and the audience at first were just completely shut, you know, like, my God. And then it was just this, yeah. And they got the whole place rocking. You know?
Wow.
But it was, you know, and they were genuinely political activists. I mean, this wasn't just an image thing. I mean, there was extreme, you know, beliefs in that band that
are still there today.
Still there,
yeah.
Definitely. You know, once in a while, these gems, people come along that can create something that has such importance and impact. You know, I don't mean to say that there isn't powerful music that's coming out that says something today, but there was so much of it happening in such a
short period
of time.
Absolutely.
It really was quite an era to be a part of.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about this beautiful song from the 60s. What other songs from this decade should we cover? If you like our videos, we do invite you to subscribe below to be a part of this community. To get Professor of Rock merch, look at that below. And to get even more content, to get insider access, join us on Patreon. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.